Did you know in Canada alone, over 50 million tons of food goes to waste every year? And globally, the food waste amounts to over 1.3 billion tons. An average Canadian household wastes over $1,300 worth of food every year. The numbers are staggering, aren't they? Seneca Hackathon 2025 focuses on solving these food-related problems with various challenge sets that cater to food safety, nutrition, charitable support, and much more. Hello, my name is Ayushi. Same here. How are you doing today? I'm good. Thank you for asking. This is like my 5 minutes of fame moment. Hello, bonjour, namaste. Welcome to the Seneca Hackathon podcast. I'm your host Ayushi, and today we have a very super special guest with us, Mr. Sanjay Padhiar from IMA Consulting. Not all superheroes wear a cape, and especially ones from the business world, they come in business casuals just like Mr. Sanjay here does. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you very much, Ayushi, for having me here today.
It's our pleasure. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here and I'm excited for this talk.
Could you tell us about IMA Consulting and how has your professional journey been?
Sure. So I started IMA Consulting in 2019 while I was still working in corporate, and I decided I need to do something on the side that will not just extra income, but also give me more experience with helping businesses as opposed to just working in one business. So in 2019, I decided I'm going to open up this consulting company. And funny thing is, the name was just, I was trying to figure out a name. And one day I just decided I am a consultant. And so I just said, I am a consulting. So yeah, so people get a crack at that, but that's simply how the name came up. In terms of what I was doing with the consulting was just helping businesses, small businesses especially, who are looking to grow their business, provide them an additional resource with some management advice. Mm-hmm. So in 2022, I was lucky enough to be able to take my consulting business full time. And so I started consulting Staples Canada for the majority of the time. And so I quit corporate. I started consulting full time in 2022. And so it's been almost 3 years now.
That's exciting, and that sounds very interesting. Also, the theme for this year for Seneca Hackathon 2025 is food. So how do you see technology making a difference in this space?
I know there's a lot of technological impact. One thing I will say about food is with my consulting business, I decided about a year ago to focus on food because I saw there was a need for specialties, like my sort of specialties, and also just the food industry in general is being dominated by very large players, right? And I think your question about technology, I think what technology does in food is just it levels the playing field. Whereas if we look at 10 years ago, it would be really difficult for a small company, let's say a mom and pop company that's making, popcorn, specialty popcorn. Now, if you want to go up against, the big players in popcorn, you're going to have a really tough time. Now, the way that the technology is and the potential reach of just one individual, it has leveled the playing field quite a bit. And interestingly enough, let's just say that you wanted to have a 30-second clip on advertising, right? So if you wanted to go radio or TV or paper, like 15 years ago, that was very expensive to do. I'm sure it's really expensive to do right now, but if you wanted to run a 30-second clip on YouTube, you could do it for relatively cheap.
It's more accessible.
It's way more accessible today. To advertise and spread the message than it was, 15 years ago. And so that's why I really like food and tech because it gives the smaller players a chance to compete with the bigger players.
That's very rightly said. It levels the playing field, like you said, for
Yeah.
the smaller and the bigger players, so everyone has equal access to opportunities.
Yeah.
And
One thing I'll just add to that is actually the bigger companies are going to some of the smaller players. Like if you're an influencer or if you have a following, right? Even though they can pay millions of dollars for advertisements, they're choosing to pay maybe a few $1,000s here and there to get sponsorships from influencers who have quite the following, right?
true.
So it not only has leveled the playing field, I feel like it's actually swayed the playing field to more of the individual. And so one thing I'll say is that I heard this: good companies use influencers, great companies are influencers, right? And so that's easier to do when you're an individual in a smaller company to be an influencer than if you're a corporation.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I really like what you said about good companies using influencers and great companies are influencers. Speaking of influence, according to you, what is that one challenge or that one thing in the food industry or in the food department that you think the hackathon participants can probably focus on building a solution around? What is that one problem that's grappling the industry the most, according to you?
I think the biggest challenge in the food industry is going to be changing people's preferences, because for the longest time we've become accustomed to having a lot of additives and preservatives in our foods. I call it designer food. So a lot of our foods have been designed in a lab to be more addictive and better for you, not just food companies, but even food in general. Like let's just talk about produce, right? Let's say carrots, peppers, whatever you want to talk about. It's much more harder for an individual to choose a vegetable than it would be to choose something like vegetable chips.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can have vegetable chips, which has vegetables in it, then I'm more likely to choose that. But just remembering that those chips were designed in a lab, whereas vegetables were actually created. They're natural, right? They were naturally put on this earth. So I think one of the biggest challenges that students could take on actually is to educate people on what is the impact of making that decision of choosing a processed food over and over again, right? So I think everything is good well, you can't go in excess when it comes to a lot of things, especially processed foods. So how do we change the narrative so that way good for you foods actually have a chance?
Why do you think, or how do you think hackathons can impact or, sort of shape up a student's future?
Oh, I think it could be pretty impactful. So one of the biggest learnings that I've had from being in the corporate world or just being out in the world in general, right? Like I went to Seneca as well. Once you enter the work world, you learn that business is a lot about relationships, and so is within corporations. Like if you have a good relationship with your manager or your colleagues, generally life is going to be a little bit better for you. You're also going to get opportunities to learn. You're going to get opportunities to get promoted. So hackathon's perfect because this is where worlds will collide, right? So you have somebody like me who has been working for 15 years and now I have my own business consulting. I'm going to be interacting with students there, and really it's for the ones who are going to be opportunistic to say, hey, can I, pick your brain? Can I connect with you? Can I chat with you? Right? So here's a hackathon is essentially the opportunity for people who are looking to build relationships. And that's the number one thing I'll say from the hackathon perspective is look at it in terms of not just what you're going to accomplish at the hackathon. Yeah, you want to do good and you want to have a good showing, but also think about how you want to show up and who you want to network with, right? So networking, I think there's a lot of, you could have a goal when it comes to networking. So whatever it is that the students are trying to do, whether it's trying to get a job, whether it's just trying to build some connections for when they are ready, or they're trying to learn something, right? So have a goal in mind of like why you want to network, and then show up with the mindset of you're here to build relationships.
That's very rightly said. And it comes straight up from our alumni's mouth that he has been here in Seneca, he knows how the drill goes, and that's why all the viewers and all the students who are still on the fence about whether or not you should participate in the Seneca Hackathon, this is your cue. Go to the link, register now, and we'll see you at the event. But that's not the end of it. Moving on. Speaking about your professional expertise, how do you see the future for the students who want to get into the field of business consulting?
I would say don't go there first because you're not going to be ready. It's very difficult to just take. I mean, Seneca is different because it's college and it's more applied, and it's really useful, right? So the stuff that you're going to be learning here is very useful, but it's still not going to make up for the real world experience. So especially if you want to be a consultant, then find a company that you could see yourself being in, and apply there and try to get a job there. So my recommendation is don't go into consulting straight away. Definitely get a job in an industry that you would actually enjoy. So if you enjoy media, if you enjoy cars, like try to find a role within one of those industries that will take you there. And if you don't get a job there right away, don't discount the power of having stepping stones, right? So if you wanted to be a broadcaster for national news, this is a great stepping stone for it, right? So just because you don't get that job right away doesn't mean that you need to be, change careers or go somewhere totally different. Look for what's that next stepping stone, because sometimes it might take 1 or 2 stepping stones to get to business consulting. And so I wanted to go directly into running my own business after finishing school, but I ended up going into corporate, and that actually helped me out because then I got 12 years of experience that would not have been the same had I been running my own business. I was working in enterprise companies, so companies that, not only are they worth billions of dollars, they're annually making revenue of $1 billion. So you get to understand the fundamentals and the systems and the processes that it takes to run a company.
Coming back to technology, how do you see technology is shaping up the business sectors today? Like, it has become an integral part. We see almost everything or every operation or process getting more or less automated, right? So
Yeah.
How do you think technology has impacted the way businesses work in today's time and age?
I feel like some businesses have become overly reliant on it, especially when you talk about AI. A lot of businesses are infatuated with AI, but in reality, their customers aren't looking for AI solutions, right? So maybe AI could be utilized to purchase better, to ship smarter, to demand plan better. So there's a lot of these functions that technology is able to streamline and make more effective. However, your customers are still looking for, can I get this product where I want it, when I want it, at a reasonable price? So what technology, I believe that technology needs to be utilized in favor of the customer, and how some companies are doing it would be to have real-time information available. So for example, if you go into a Best Buy, you have associates there that have iPhones or iPods or whatever with the technology in their pocket to be able to answer your questions right away. And if they're not able to answer your questions right away, they're literally using their phones or technology to be like, oh, let me get Ayushi. She's great at picking mics if I'm there for a mic, right? So finding the right expert in whatever customer service role you're looking for, I do believe that there are specialties that we can really lean on to make the customer experience better. And so I think technology should be used more so to empower the workforce and make the experience for customers better.
One of the major issues affecting the food industry today is food scarcity. What do you have to say about that, Mr. Sanjay?
Yeah, so I think I think we all know that there's food scarcity in other parts of the world, and I think we have the opposite problem in North America. So I think one of the challenges is like how do we balance that, right? There's a company that I know of that is using recycled fruits to make into a drink. And so that's very innovative, and I think one of the challenges could be how do we balance food scarcity, right? Like the overconsumption versus the underconsumption. And the other part of, I think that the whole equation is corporate social responsibility, because I don't think individuals need to kind of step up and participate. Governments do as well. However, I think potentially the most impactful could be corporations. So if companies are looking to create more of a social impact and step up, then they should take action, especially about the food scarcity problem. There's also other issues such as not having access to education. So if you're not able to learn and eat properly, then you're really putting that population or demographic in a really underprivileged state. And so one of the things that I'm doing through IMA Consulting is having a purpose, a corporate social responsibility purpose and mission. And so last year we did a donation and a drive that we took a bunch of used clothing and toys, and with a partner that I connected with off of LinkedIn, Dr. Maxwell, we were able to send boxes of these goods to Africa in Ghana. And my business partner, Dr. Maxwell, says, like, don't worry about the amount of stuff that you're sending. The impact is there. So don't worry about how big the impact is going to be. The impact will still be there.
That's very correctly said, Mr. Sanjay. The essence of giving back is very important. It's not just about making money and growing the business, but also giving back to the society. That brings us to the last segment of the podcast.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, let's play a quick rapid fire.
Sure.
The first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay. Ready?
Yeah. What's your go-to brainstorming snack, like when you want to really solve some complex problems for some business clients?
It would probably be, I want to say, chevro, which is just like an Indian snack with just like random nuts and legumes and all that stuff that is probably not the best thing for you. I'm actually looking at a healthier alternative for that.
Okay, let us know when you find one.
For sure.
One thing that you absolutely cannot have, like in terms of food or drinks, that you hate it.
Now I'm going to say sugar in my coffee.
Okay.
It's been about like 6 years where I quit sugar in my coffee. And so now if I'm having tea or coffee in my sugar, it just tastes off to me and I can't drink too much of it.
One advice for our hackathon participants.
Like I said before, come with the mindset of looking to network and build relationships, because it's those relationships that are going to matter after you're done your education.
And if you had to invent a food tech product, what would that be?
I would probably want to know, and I know there's technology already out there, but I think this needs to be more accessible and affordable, is to be able to like take a picture of your fridge and know like what to make and also what to order or what else to get, right? Yeah. So there could be like, okay, based on these ingredients, you can make this, but based on these ingredients and you're going shopping, you say, okay, here's a shopping list that's going to set you up. And so I think meal planning with taking a picture of your fridge and then providing you a shopping list, I think whoever comes up with that effectively can do really well.
That's actually very smart, because I've often seen people go back to the grocery stores, like they just cashed out and again because we forgot this item.
Yeah, you forget, or like if you're lucky enough like me, I call home and I'm like, I ask my wife, hey, do we have this? And then so she has to put everything on hold. And then she
And
has to
go
go
and
into
check.
the fridge
Yeah.
and see, okay, we have this or we don't have this.
Right.
So I think that would be really, really effective technological tool.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
very smart too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And last one, what's your best Seneca memory?
Oh wow. It's hard to say, but I lived on campus at the Newnham one, and this is just a random memory, which it always comes to me first. Is I used to drive and I had like a souped up car, and I would just I shouldn't even say this, but like there were so many speed bumps, but we kind of made it a game to go around the speed bumps, and
Okay.
and this would be like at nighttime, so there was like no cars there. But whenever like I had to go to the back of the campus to get to my residence, so every time I went there, I just kind of made it a game to like navigate around like the speed bumps. As far as school goes, I just remember that it's like 7 or 8 a.m. classes. I remember like drinking Pepsi at like 8 a.m. because when I went to college long time ago now, I didn't drink coffee till much later on. So I drank pop. So I would drink Pepsi, and I look back at it now and I'm like, oh, like that was really, really bad.
Yeah. All the Seneca students, do not attempt this. No
Yeah.
playing around the road bumps for fun.
Oh yeah.
No drinking Pepsi at 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. Good example of what not to do.
Yeah.
Better off to drink tea or coffee.
All right, Mr. Sanjay, that was very insightful, and thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge with us.
My pleasure.
All the Seneca Hackathon viewers, please make a note all the things that you can do at the Seneca Hackathon and all the ways that it can help you, just like Mr. Sanjay here said. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please go to the link in our description to register for the podcast, and for more updates, follow our social media handles. Thank you, and we'll see you at the event.